Good morning and namaskar. My statement has three parts to it. In the first part, I would be elaborating on the decision of the MPC and the rationale behind the MPC's decision. In the second part, I have attempted to provide some forward guidance with regard to the liquidity position and our liquidity management. And in the third part, I would be announcing certain additional measures, some of which are very important and have systemic impact. So, I request your patience. The Monetary Policy Committee met on 3rd, 4th and 5th February 21 and deliberated on current and evolving macroeconomic and financial developments, both domestic and global. The MPC voted unanimously to leave the policy repo rate unchanged at 4%. It also unanimously decided to continue with the accommodative stance of monetary policy as long as necessary, at least through the current financial year and into the next year, to revive growth on a durable basis and mitigate the impact of COVID-19 while ensuring that inflation remains within the target going forward. The marginal standing facility rate and the bank rate remain unchanged at 4.25%. The reverse repo rate stands unchanged at 3.35%. I would like to first set out briefly the broad contours of the MPC's decision-making process and its underlying motivation. Inflation outturns in the last 2 months have turned out to be better than what was expected at the time of the December meeting. For the first time during the COVID-19 period, inflation has eased below the upper tolerance level of 6%. Going ahead, factors that could shape the food inflation trajectory in coming months, including likely bumper Kharif harvest, arrivals in markets, rising prospects of good Rabi crop, larger winter supplies of key vegetables, and softer poultry demand on fears of avian flu are all indicative of a stable near-term outlook. The preliminary estimates of GDP for 2020 and 21 released by the National Statistics Office on January 7th has turned out to be very close to the MPC's December projection. The outlook on growth has improved significantly with positive growth impulses becoming more broad-based and the rollout of vaccination program in the country auguring well for the end of the pandemic. Given that inflation has returned within the tolerance band, the MPC judged that the need of the hour is to continue to support growth, assuage the impact of COVID-19 and return the economy to a higher growth trajectory. Let me now provide a detailed assessment of growth and inflation. The new year 2021 has begun on a strong positive note with vaccination drives in major economies as well as in India. India's response to COVID-19 reminds us of an excerpt from Mahatma Gandhi's proclamation that determined spirits fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission can alter the course of history. While the year 2020 has tested our capabilities and endurance, 2021 is setting the stage for a new economic era in the course of our history. Importantly, the signs of recovery have strengthened further since the last meeting of the MPC. High-frequency, coincident and proximate indicators suggest that the list of normalizing sectors is expanding. The RBI's survey points towards improvement in capacity utilization in manufacturing sector to 63.3% in Q2 of 2020-21 from 47.3% in Q1 of 2021. Consumer confidence is reviving and business expectations of manufacturing, services and infrastructure remain upbeat. The movement of goods and people and domestic trading activity are growing at a robust pace. Electricity and energy demand reflect a broader normalization of economic activity than in December, even as fears of a second wave abate. Data for sales and new launches of residential units in major metropolitan centers reflect a renewed confidence in the real estate sector. Manufacturing, services and composite purchase managers index PMI are in expansion zones. Furthermore, the vaccination drive is expected to provide an impetus for the restoration of contact-intensive sectors and a leading edge to the Indian pharma industry in the global market. Foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment to India have surged in recent months, reposing faith in the impressive recovery in the Indian economy. Ahead of a broader infrastructure revival, the speed of daily national highways construction is rising, and the pace of award of national highway projects in 2021 has doubled year on year. What is more, the flow of financial resources to the commercial sector has been improving, particularly in respect of non-food bank credit and via commercial paper, credit by housing finance companies, private placement of corporate bonds, and foreign direct investment. The total flow of these resources is rupees 8.85 lakh crore so far, up to January 15th, compared with 7.97 lakh crore during the corresponding period of the previous year. The latest bank lending survey of the RBI suggests further sequential improvement in sentiment on loan demand across all sectors right up to Q2 21-22. Taking these factors into consideration, GDP growth is projected at 10.5% in 21-22, in the range of 26.2% to 8.3% in H1 and 6% in Q3 of the coming financial year, that is 21-22. The Union Budget 21-22 has provided a strong impetus for revival of sectors such as health and well-being, infrastructure, innovation and research, among others. This will have a cascading multiplier effect going forward, particularly in improving the investment climate and reinvigorating domestic demand, income and employment. The investment-oriented stimulus under the Atmanirbhar 2.0 and 3.0 given during the peak of the pandemic has started working its way through and is improving the spending momentum along with the quality of public investment. Both will facilitate regaining India's growth potential over the medium term. The projected increase in capital expenditure in the Union Budget augurs well for capacity creation and crowding in private investment, thereby improving the prospects of growth and building credibility around the quality of expenditure. Let me now focus on our assessment of the inflation. After breaching the upper tolerance threshold continuously since June 2020, CPI inflation moved below 6% in December for the first time in the post-lockdown period, supported by favorable base effects and a sharp fall in key vegetable prices, the latter accounting for 90% of the decline in headline inflation during November and December. Both higher fresh arrivals and active supply-side interventions contributed to this favorable development. It is expected that vegetable prices will remain soft in the near term, while pressures may continue to persist in certain key food items. The outlook for core inflation is influenced by escalation in cost push pressures seen in recent months. Petroleum product prices have reached historic highs as international crude prices surged in recent months, and the high indirect taxes remain both in the center and in the states. These, along with the sharp increase in industrial raw material prices, have resulted in a broad-based increase in prices of services and manufacturing products in recent months. Going forward, concerted policy action by both center and states is critical to ensure that the ongoing cost buildup does not escalate further. Taking into consideration all these factors, the projection for CPI inflation has been revised to 5.2% for Q4 of the current financial year, that is from January to March, and to 5.2% to 5% in the H1. Let me repeat, for the current quarter our projection is that CPI inflation will be 5.2%, and for H1 the range we are giving is 5.2% to 5%. and for Q3 of next year we are projecting 4.3%, and we are assessing that the risks would be broadly balanced. By March 21, the government would be reviewing the inflation target for the next 5 years. The experience with successfully maintaining price stability and gains in credibility for monetary policy since institution of the inflation targeting framework, barring the COVID-19 period, needs to be reinforced in the coming years even as we exit the pandemic and seek to exploit the opportunities of the post-COVID world. Price stability is the foundation on which economy can strive to reach its potential in a virtuous cycle of higher financial savings and investment, reduced uncertainties for firms in investment and wage decisions, reduced term and risk premia in financial markets, and increased external competitiveness. I now proceed to provide some forward guidance with regard to the liquidity situation and our approach to liquidity management. The Reserve Bank and the markets evolved a shared understanding towards cooperative solutions during the pandemic period. A large government borrowing program was managed seamlessly. The issuance of corporate bonds reached a record level, that is 5.8 lakh crore during April-December 2020 as compared with 4.6 lakh crore during April-December of 2019. Explicit forward guidance was an innovative feature in the conduct of monetary policy during 2020-21. In addressing the discomfort of markets regarding persistently higher inflation prints and the large supply of government paper, the maintenance of financial stability and orderly evolution of yield curve. I have said this before and I repeat, the maintenance of financial stability and the orderly evolution of the yield curve were explicitly regarded as public goods, as the benefits accrue to all stakeholders in the economy. The RBI's market operations dispelled illiquidity fears and bolstered financial markets sentiment. Convinced by RBI's communication and actions, market participants also responded synchronously and cooperatively, which bears testimony to the effectiveness of our forward guidance. The measures taken by the RBI through a combination of policy rate cuts, proactive liquidity management, and regulatory forbearance against the backdrop of global spillovers and the nationwide lockdown ensured smooth transmission of policy rate cuts across the market spectrum, narrowing of risk spreads and rekindling of the corporate bond market. In G-Sec market, in which risk-free benchmarks evolve, a record low weighted average cost of 5.78% and an elongated weighted average maturity of 14.9 years testify to the credibility of monetary and liquidity management operations of the Reserve Bank of India. On January 11th, money market and G-Sec yields firmed up on perceived market misconceptions about the RBI reversing its accommodative policy stance. I repeat, on January 11th, money market rates and G-Sec yields firmed up on perceived market misconceptions about RBI reversing its accommodative policy stance. In this context, it's very useful to remember that variable rate reverse repo auctions are already a part of our menu of instruments as the main tool under which the revised liquidity management framework this was the main tool under the revised liquidity management framework, and they were in active use even before the pandemic. They are voluntary, and in any case, the recourse to overnight fixed rate reverse repo remains available on a daily basis. Variable reverse repo rate auctions offer a higher remuneration than fixed rate reverse repo in view of the longer tenor, that is 14 days. The stance of liquidity management continues to be accommodative and completely in consonance with the stance of monetary policy. Let me reiterate and repeat, the stance of liquidity management continues to be accommodative and completely in consonance with the stance of monetary policy. The RBI stands committed to ensure the availability of ample liquidity in the system and thereby foster congenial financial conditions in the recovery to gain traction. It would be worthwhile to note here that reserve money rose by 14.5% year on year on January 29th, led by currency demand. Money supply, that is M3 on the other hand, grew by only 12.5% on January 15th, 2021. Since early November 2020, international crude prices have risen following optimism on back of vaccination and news on additional policy stimulus. These factors have engendered a return of risk appetite and an intensified search for returns, resulting in surges of capital flows into emerging market economies like India and consequent increase in volatility in financial markets. The RBI has, however, proactively taken steps to insulate domestic financial markets from global spillovers and consequent volatility, while ensuring comfortable domestic liquidity conditions. A two-phase normalization of the cash reserve ratio (CRR), which I am going to announce, needs to be seen in this context. Systemic liquidity would, however, continue to remain comfortable over the ensuing year. In fact, the CRR normalization opens up space for a variety of market operations to inject additional liquidity. The underlying theme of our endeavor in these areas would be to flexibly use all instruments in our arsenal appropriately without jeopardizing financial stability, which is at the core of RBI's policy objectives. Gross market borrowing of the center for 21-22 is budgeted at rupees 12 lakh crore. As the government's debt manager and banker, the Reserve Bank will ensure the orderly completion of the market borrowing program in a non-disruptive manner. In this context, we look forward to continuance of the common understanding and cooperative approach between market players and the RBI during 21-22 also. I would now like to proceed to make some additional I would like to now announce certain additional measures, and many of them are actually very critical and have wider impact on the financial sector. So I would request your patience. The first set of measures relate to liquidity. The first measure is TLTRO on-tap scheme, inclusion of NBFCs in the scheme. With a view to support revival of activity in specific stressed sectors, the RBI had announced the TLTRO on-tap scheme for banks on October 9th, 2020. Given that NBFCs are well-recognized conduits in reaching out to the last mile in various sectors, it is now proposed to provide funds from banks under the TLTRO on-tap scheme to NBFCs for incremental lending to specified stressed sectors. The next announcement relates to restoration of CRR in two phases beginning March 21. To tide over the disruption caused by COVID-19, the cash reserve ratio of all banks was reduced by 100 basis points to 3% for a period of 1 year ending 26th March 21. On a review of monetary and liquidity conditions, it has been decided to gradually restore the CRR in two phases in a non-disruptive manner to 3.5% effective from March 27th and 4% effective from May 22nd, 2021. As mentioned earlier, the CRR normalization opens up space for a variety of market operations of the RBI to inject additional liquidity. The next measure relates to marginal standing facility MSF extension of the relaxation. On March 27th last year, banks were allowed to avail of funds under the marginal standing facility MSF by dipping into statutory liquidity ratio up to an additional 1% of net time and demand liabilities. This facility, which was extended in phases up to 31st March 2021, that is coming 31st March, will now be available for a further period of another 6 months, that is up to September 30th, 2021, to provide comfort to banks on their liquidity requirements. This dispensation provides increased access to funds to the extent of rupees 1.53 lakh crores. The next set of announcements relate to regulation and supervision, and the first one relates to SLR holdings in held to maturity category, that is in HTM category. In order to provide certainty to market participants in the context of the borrowing program of the center and states for 21-22, it has now been decided to extend the dispensation of enhanced HTM of 22% up to March 31st, 2023 to include securities acquired between 1st April 21 and 31st March 22. The HTM limits would be restored from 22% to 19.5% in a phased manner starting from the quarter ending 30th June 2023. It is expected that banks will be able to plan their investments in SLR securities in an optimal manner with a clear glide path for restoration of HTL limits. Credit to MSME entrepreneurs. In order to incentivize new credit flow to MSME borrowers, scheduled commercial banks will be allowed to deduct credit disbursed to new MSME borrowers from their NDTL for calculation of CRR. For the purpose of this exemption, new MSME borrowers would be those who have not availed any credit facilities from the banking system as on 1st January 21. This exemption will be available for exposures up to Rs 25 lakh per borrower for credit extended up to the fortnight ending October 1st, 21. Details of the scheme would be spelled out in the circular. Capital conservation buffer and net stable funding ratio, that is CCB and NSFR. The emphasis of regulatory interventions by the Reserve Bank has veered towards supporting and nurturing the recovery. It has therefore been decided to defer the implementation of the last tranche of capital conservation buffer of 0.625% and also defer the implementation of the net stable funding ratio by another 6 months from 1st April to October 1st, 21. Review of regulatory framework for microfinance. Microfinance sector plays an important role in the last mile delivery of credit to the needy segments. In view of the evolving role of the sector and the need for a robust framework for enhanced delivery of last mile credit and strengthening consumer protection, the Reserve Bank will come out with a consultative document harmonizing regulatory frameworks applicable to various regulated lenders in the microfinance space. Next announcement relates to Expert Committee on Primary Urban Cooperative Banks, that is UCBs. The urban cooperative banks, I am referring to primary urban cooperative banks, are an important segment of the credit structure of our country. The Reserve Bank has undertaken several measures in the recent past to strengthen the urban cooperative banking sector and deepen financial inclusion. The recent amendments to the Banking Regulation Act 1949 have brought near parity in regulatory and supervisory powers between urban cooperative banks and commercial banks, including those related to governance, audit and resolution. An expert committee will be constituted to provide a medium-term roadmap for strengthening the sector, leveraging on the legislative amendments. Constitution of this expert committee and its terms of reference will be announced shortly. The next announcement relates to remittances to the IFSC under Liberalized Remittance Scheme, LRS. Currently, resident individuals are not allowed to make remittances under the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, LRS, to International Financial Service Centers, IFSCs. To further develop IFSCs and bring them at par with other international financial centers, it is proposed to permit resident individuals to make remittances to IFSCs for investment in securities issued by non-resident entities in IFSCs. For this specific purpose, resident individuals should be allowed to open a non-interest bearing foreign currency account, FCA, in the IFSCs. The next set of announcements relate to deepening of financial markets. And the first measure in this context is allowing retail investors to open gilt accounts with RBI, and this is a major step. The central government and the Reserve Bank have taken several measures to encourage retail investment in government securities. In continuation of these efforts, it is proposed to provide retail investors with online access to government securities market, both primary and secondary. directly through the Reserve Bank, and we are calling it Retail Direct. This will broaden the investor base and provide retail investors with enhanced access to participate in the government securities market. This is a major structural reform, placing India amongst select few countries which have similar facilities. It has to be noted that retail investors will have now direct access to participate in the GSEC market, both primary and secondary, and directly they can open an account with the Reserve Bank. And this kind of direct access which is being given to the retail investors in GSEC market, I think very few countries in the world have it, and India now joins that league. This is a major structural reform which the RBI has decided to implement, and the roadmap for this will be announced separately. This measure, it is important to note, I repeat, this measure together with the HTM relaxation will facilitate smooth completion of the government borrowing program in the financial year 21-22. The next measure relates to foreign portfolio investors' investment in defaulted bonds. In order to further promote investment by foreign portfolio investors, that is FPIs in corporate bonds, FPI investment in defaulted corporate bonds will be exempted from the short-term limit and medium-term residual maturity requirement under the medium-term framework. The next set of announcements relate to payment and settlement systems. With enhanced penetration and efficiency of digital payments, major payment system operators would be required to facilitate setting up of a centralized industry-wide 24/7 helpline for addressing customer queries in respect of various digital payment products and give information on available grievance redress mechanisms. Going forward, the facility of redress of customer grievances through the helpline shall be considered. This is envisaged to enhance consumer trust and confidence in the digital payments ecosystem. Guidelines on outsourcing for operators and participants of authorized payment systems, and this is the next measure I am going to announce. The resilience of the digital payments ecosystem to operational risks needs to be constantly upgraded. A potential area of operational risk is associated with outsourcing by payment system operators and participants of authorized payment systems. To manage the attendant risks in outsourcing and ensure that a code of conduct is adhered to while outsourcing payment and settlement related services, the Reserve Bank shall issue guidelines on outsourcing of such services by these entities. Check truncation system, that is CTS clearing across all banks. The coverage of the check truncation system CTS has been extended to all legacy clearing houses by September 2020. It is however noticed that about 18,000 bank branches are still outside any formal clearing arrangement. It is now proposed to bring all these branches under CTS clearing by September 21. With this measure, all bank branches in the country would be covered under the CTS. This will enhance customer convenience and bring in operational efficiency to paper-based clearing system. And the final announcement relates to consumer protection. And here we are going to announce an integrated ombudsman scheme. At present, the framework for alternate dispute resolution consists of 3 separate ombudsman schemes for banks, NBFCs and non-bank prepaid issuers. These 3 schemes are operated by the RBI from 22 ombudsman offices located across the country. To make the ombudsman mechanism simpler, efficient and more responsive, it has been decided to integrate the 3 ombudsman schemes and introduce centralized processing of grievances following a one nation, one ombudsman approach. This is intended to make the process of redress of grievances easier by enabling the customers to register their complaints under the integrated scheme with one centralized reference point. The integrated ombudsman scheme will be rolled out in June 21. And finally, let me conclude by saying that going forward, and this is the concluding paragraph, and I would like to sort of thereafter we have a press conference which is coming up at 12 o'clock, and that will be also live streamed on the RBI YouTube channel. In conclusion, I would like to say that going forward, the Indian economy is poised to move in only one direction, and that is upwards. It is our strong conviction, backed by forecasts, that in 21-22, we would undo the damage that COVID-19 has inflicted on the economy. After the chaos and despair of the year gone by, through which we have sailed together and shall continue to sail ahead, the overall situation can best be described in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, and I quote, "We are daily witnessing the phenomenon of the impossible of yesterday becoming the possible of today." Thank you. Stay safe, stay well. Namaskar.